Officer, Headquarters Battalion Colonel Christian C. Griffin, welcomes you to the retirement for Master Sergeant Hugh Weise. Today remarks the accumulation of over 27 years of honorable and faithful devotion and military service to our country and Corps. Please rise as the invocation is given by Chaplain Mark Miller, United States Navy, and please remain standing for the playing of the national anthem.
Let us pray. Giver of life and almighty Lord, today we come to you with deep gratitude in our hearts for all the gifts that you give us, our families, our loved ones, our good friends, and our incredible jobs with the United States Marine Corps. Help us to always receive these gifts with humility and thanksgiving. We remember to you today Master Sergeant Hugh Weise. His time in the Marine Corps is ending, and he will begin a new stage in life's journey. With deep appreciation to his dedication and faithfulness, and we hope that his 26 years of service is an inspiration to all that follow in his stead. So we ask that you would keep your hand of grace upon him as he sets out to explore new horizons. Although Master Sergeant Weise is retiring from the Marine Corps, he's not retiring from life, Father. And this new phase will present some exciting challenges. A challenge to be flexible in the midst of unknown variables. Lord, give him patience. A challenge to be creative. Lord, give him vision. A challenge to continue to live life well in the midst of change. Lord, give him integrity. And perhaps most difficult, a challenge to slow down and enjoy life a little bit more. God, your strength enables us to protect others. Your providence keeps us safe. Help us to turn our hearts towards you daily. And it is in the name of the Creator and Sustainer and Savior that we pray. Amen.
Now the retiring officer for today's ceremony is Second Lieutenant Diana C. Kerbali. Please remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Second Lieutenant Kerbali will be assisted today by First Sergeant Sidney Rose. Now taking his position as the retiring Master Sergeant Hugh M. Weise.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Attention, new orders. Master Sergeant Hugh M. Weise was transferred to this date from the United States Marine Corps to the Fleet Marine Force Reserve after serving 27 of honorable and faithful active service. Signed 30th of June 2020, David B. Berger, Commandant of the Marine Corps. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Letter from the President of the United States of America. Certificate of Appreciation for your service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Master Sergeant Hugh M. Weise. I extend my personal thanks and sincerest appreciation for this grateful nation and your contribution to honorable service to our country. You have helped and maintained the security of this nation during this critical time in its history. With your devotion and duty and spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of the military service, Your commitment and dedication will be an inspiration for all of those to follow your footsteps, and for all Americans who join me today in saluting for you a job extremely well done. My best wishes to you and your happiness and success in the future. Signed, Donald J. Trump, Commander-in-Chief. Letter from the Commandant of the Marine Corps. Dear Master Sergeant Weise, the Marine Corps has been your occupation and your family for the many years in past. I am certain that all the interests and the future of the Corps will be remaining with you forever. My many desire to obtain your accomplished goals, but few can actually compare to you. You have certainly demonstrated the exceptional leadership and qualities and professional contributions that we all seek in our senior leaders. We are proud, and you must be, of your successful career as a teacher to young Marines, a source of wise counsel, and always an example for those to solely virtue your admiration. You have made a mark in the Marine Corps that will remain long after you have left our active ranks. There are many young Marines that you have influenced and will carry on the same traditions that you have always characterized in the United States Marine Corps. You have my best wishes of good health and continued success in the years ahead. Semper Fidelis, David V. Berger, General, Commandant in the Marine Corps. Letter from the Sergeant Major, Marine Corps. Dear Master Sergeant Weise, on this occasion of your retirement, I would like to thank you for your many years of dedication and service to the Corps. Your selfless sacrifice to our country. You have done this tremendous job and you will be missed. Your professionalism, your efforts, your endurance will be inspirational to all during these challenging years. And you have set the standards for others to follow. As you embark this new chapter of life, to be extremely proud of all your accomplishments, and you have set the example of professionalism, and you leave the standard of excellence to all the Marines who will carry on this legacy. Semper Fidelis, Troy E. Black, 19th Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. Certificate of Appreciation to Master Sergeant Hugh M. Weise for your true and faithful service at Serving Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division. Your honorable service during this time is also an important factor in the success of the battalion. As a member of a standard bearer, you have embodied the Corps' values of honor, courage, and commitment. Although service has come to an end, you will always be a Marine. Semper Fidelis, given under my hand this 16th day of April, 2020. Signed, C.C. Griffin, Commanding Officer, Headquarters. This certifies that this accompanying American flag was flown over Headquarters Battalion Building 3314, Camp Pendleton, California, on April 16, 2020, in your honor of Master Sergeant Hugh Weise, in recognition of your 27 years of dedication and faithful service to the United States Marine Corps. Ladies and gentlemen, the retiring officer, Second Lieutenant Kerbali.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, sir, and Master Sergeant Weise. It's an honor to be here today. I'd like to introduce myself as Second Lieutenant Diana Kerbali, and I've known Master Sergeant Weise since he's checked into Headquarters Battalion. And I'd like to try to keep this as brief as one of his stories. Coming on deck as a new OPSO doing a turnover was around October. And right around that time is Halloween. And I remember, as Master Sergeant Weise was teaching me the ins and outs of operation and how to support the division and stand my ground, he was also teaching me how to take care of Marines. During that time, as we were doing our outbrief, Master Sergeant Weise pitched the idea to me. Ma'am, tomorrow's Halloween, and I'd like to have the Marines dress up in Halloween costumes. And I thought, this is an outrageous idea. I said, well, they can dress up after what they work. And then I thought again. I said, you know what, Master? We'll let the Marines dress up. So we go into the evening, and I remember that evening, I get a call. I got the wonderful duties of the range safety officer for Wilcox Range for the next day. So what happens the next day? I go in, do the range safety officer duties at Wilcox Range, and I come back to my office, and I get a text message. And that text message is a picture that Master Sergeant Weise sends me. In that picture, I see the costumes of the Marines. Some hot dogs, gorillas, some inflatable sumo police suit. One of them sticks out to me. What seems to be a normal polo, blue polo, and rather tight jeans, I guess that's today's fashion, and a wig and painted nails. It was one of our Marines dressed up like one of the PX girls. But it didn't stop there. Master Sergeant Weise, if you look closely in the picture, he also has rather white hair that may not be within military regs, a wig, and then what seems to be the 70s disco champion outfit. And as soon as I got that picture, that's when I knew that this Master Sergeant was one of a kind, just like his action figure. So,
I should have brought that.
Master Sergeant Weise has an impeccable impact that he's made on the Marine Corps. He's seen 5 tons turn into 7 tons, tricolor uniforms turn into digital camis, PFCs turn into staff NCOs, lieutenants turn into colonels, and above all, what a lot of us can't say, he's seen all his men return back from combat. Master Sergeant Weise has looked pure evil into the eye. He's navigated battlefields with his courage, intellect, and incredible grit, all to keep his loved ones safe and his Marines. His sacrifice and dedication to duty has kept him humble throughout his entire career at the Marine Corps. Not once has Master Sergeant Weise sought out credit for any work or suggestions he's made, and not once has he ever had to throw his rank around in order to prove a point. Master Sergeant Weise has always met his Marines where they needed him, and he's always been one to protect the greatest asset to the Corps, the Marine. Whether it's Brooklyn Brother pizzas at going aways, gourmet donuts on birthday surprises, teaching lieutenants how to cage 7-ton brakes underneath a 7-ton, teaching corporals how to drive stick shift, or even PFCs how to shoot. Master Sergeant Weise is always there. And whenever it came to a midnight call, whether it's a lieutenant calling to say that they potentially flipped a vehicle, or a sergeant that had too many to drink that night, or even Lance Corporal that couldn't make it to the next day, Master Sergeant Weise always answered. And for that, Master Sergeant Weise, I'd like to thank you for 27 years of service and making me the officer I am today, and making this Corps stronger and better because you decided to take the human aspect and see the person and the Marine in that uniform. Fair winds and following seas, Master Sergeant. And with that, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Master Sergeant Weise.
You got me on that one. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. So I'm trying to get with the times here, and I didn't want to write my speech out, but I typed it, and it's because usually I just kind of free flow it, and everybody knows how that can turn out. So to start, Colonel Griffin, sir, thank you. Again, thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you for giving me one last shot in the motor pool. Lieutenant Colonel Ford, I know he was somewhere. He promised me a bottle, so I hope he's on deck. There he is. All right. Lieutenant Colonel Shankar, not sure if he made it. Chief Warrant Officer Gonzalez, didn't see him, but I did see Master Gunny Wright, Master Guns Vescovi, Sergeant Major. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me. I have nothing but family and friends, just like Lieutenant Cabarle said. So I had this awesome kick-ass speech all typed up. It was ready to go, and then the coronavirus hit. And so the guests who the speech is about can't be here. But since I have it being recorded, I still need to tell the joke just because they're going to see it. So ideally, it was going to be my parents, my children, my girl, and my former CO from Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, Colonel Bernie O'Neill. We actually go to church together. And I was going to say that it's probably not very often that a staff NCO has the first colonel who he ever sat with and had a leadership discussion sitting next to the last colonel who he ever is going to sit with and have a leadership discussion. And Colonel O'Neill, I remember the talk that we had, and he came into my office and asked what was the most difficult part of training students. I told him that it was his guidance that we not curse at students, that we don't cuss. And you know, the Corps I grew up in, the F-bomb is every other word. If you didn't use it, that meant you had a very limited vocabulary, and there was an MCI for that. But my vocabulary was awesome, so I could do it. And the colonel, when I said, you know, that's how I grew up, he said, well, you know, I had a big family growing up, and my mom just did not tolerate it, so I didn't do it. And that completely blew me away, because all the curse words I learned were from my mom. So at this point of the story, my mom would have been sitting here and she would have given me the finger just because that's how she is. So, but my family couldn't make it. Damn. But I have family out here anyway. So, Lieutenant Cabarle, yeah, I've had more OPSOs than I've had pairs of socks. And Lieutenant Cabarle is the longest serving OPSO in truck company history, I think. And yeah, when we met, yeah, it was back in 2017, just this young, brand new lieutenant. And I knew that once she became the OPSO, I said it was going to be a fun time. And we had a lot of conversations, a lot of talks. Most of them were good. Some of them were, hey, the door is closed and she's standing on an ammo can trying to get eye level with me, and we were going at it. But at the end of the day, yeah, I still consider you a true friend, just a great human being. And you know, I'm glad that you finally hit the point in your career that you realized Top was always right. So I appreciate it, ma'am. Thank you. You know, when I joined the Corps, part of the reason was I didn't want to keep going to school. Yeah, I wanted to experience life and live and make history rather than just read about others who did. I wanted to see the world a bit, kind of visit the places I'd read about, what I'd seen on TV, enjoy the whole wine, women, and song stuff that actually used to be a thing in the Corps, and do some exciting, like, superhero level stuff. And you know, I was a Catholic school kid from the Midwest, so we're kind of raised to have a desire to help people and be willing to sacrifice a lot to help others. And that was ingrained in me for as long as I can remember. So my first unit in the Corps was 8th Motor T Battalion. That's you know, TSB, GS Motor T right now. And it was all taking broken wall lockers from supply down to Dermo, and then taking trash out to the dump, all that boring, non-sexy stuff that I absolutely did not want to do in the Marine Corps. So all my buddies and I, we said, hey, the next deployment that comes up, we're all volunteering for it. We didn't care what it was. We didn't care where it went. We were going to volunteer. And that deployment was the 26th MU. So we all went, and that was everything that I'd wanted from the Corps. It was the travel, the excitement, the experience, and you know, of course, the ladies and the alcohol, but they were going to be foreign ladies, so that was okay. It was in that unit, though, that I learned to set goals for not just myself, but for my career and my life. Without a goal, without a target to aim at, like Lieutenant Cabarle said, taking PFCs down to the range to help teach them how to shoot. If you don't have a target, you're shooting in the dark. You're never going to hit anything. My platoon commander at the time, Lieutenant Keith Coleman, he made us write down our goals. We had to have a short, mid, and long-term goal. Always had to have it in our left breast pocket. And after a while of hitting all these short-term goals, I started thinking of what kind of long-term goals do I want to last my career. And so I came up with 3 that to me were pretty awesome. It was, I wanted to make it to Gunny, I wanted to get to Australia, and I wanted 2 silver stars on my Sea Service deployment ribbon. So I knew that as long as I didn't waver, as long as I took all the chances and the opportunities that the Corps provided me, I would hit those goals. So Gunny, I did it. Australia, did it. 2 silver stars on my Sea Service deployment ribbon, did it. And I got an extra bronze one just for good measure. But it wasn't until this past February, just 2 months ago, I was at a church youth group retreat, and a guy there who I absolutely respect, he was talking to these kids, the next generation, and he said, hey, he didn't know what all those little pieces of cloth meant. He didn't know what all the stars meant. He just knew that they represented sacrifices made. And you know, I've never looked at it that way. I'd be willing to bet most of us don't look at it that way. You know, we look at them and we see the places we'd gone and the things we'd done and the things we'd done well, and you know, in the case of my good conduct medals, the things I didn't get caught doing. But it showed that I did everything I could to hit all those goals, regardless of the cost. And for him to recognize that, for someone to actually say that, it tells me that, you know, hey, Marines, people understand, they get it. They might get it better than us. I know we joke around, hey, thank you for your service, you know, you're an upstanding American. But people truly do understand what we do and why we do it. So, ladies, if you would let Pat know that I'm thinking of him right now, and I'll tell him when I see him. So, I missed the funeral of a grandmother because we were deployed to a part of the world that we weren't supposed to be in. My son, when he was born, I was in Bosnia, didn't get to see him when he reported in. My second grandmother died on a Sunday, and we were deploying on a Thursday. I always say we when talking about the Corps because I love the Marine Corps. I love the Marines in it. I love the sailors who I've served with. And every sacrifice we make is together. So despite all the loss and sacrifice, as Dr. Jordan B. Peterson wrote, with love, encouragement, and character intact, a human being can be resilient beyond imagining. So for the leaders here, we may not want to admit it, but we have to love our Marines and sailors. Some of them I love like my own children. Some of them I love like, the neighbor's stepkids who I don't want on my lawn. But our duties might require us to be the best driver, the best wrench turner, the best machine gunner, the best radio operator, absolutely. But as leaders, our obligation is to guide, lead, teach, train, coach, and mentor everyone we can. Don't ever lose sight of that. The Corps is going to outlast me. I'm proving it today. It's going to outlast all of us, I hope. And if we're lucky, the knowledge and lessons we pass along will outlast all of us as well. Dr. Peterson also wrote, there's so many ways that things can fall apart or fail to work altogether, and it's always the wounded people who are holding it together. As leaders, we strive for perfection, but we know that's not obtainable. We know we can't issue orders that can't be obeyed or met, and we can't lose sight of what matters. I may have been one of the best M813 operators in Marine Corps history, but that truck's been gone for over 20 years. Marines, however, are still around. Never, ever, ever stop caring for them. For the young Marines out here, a guy named Frederick Nietzsche, you should read him a little bit. He said, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. My why was always my goals, Gunny, Australia, and 2 Silver Stars. My enabler, though, my how was my faith, my love of God, country, family, and Corps. And it's been that way for a long time. So I'll always think everybody here is family. And families fight, families argue, families hurt each other. But in the end, families have to care about each other. So please don't ever forget that. For my friends here, you've invited me, some into your lives, some into your homes. And I like to stir pudding a little bit. I like to make comments that might be a little bit inappropriate, I think, every once in a while. But they all still like me for some reason. Kelly, right here, met her years ago back at 372. Phenomenal fro, just a great person. She tried to get me shot. She asked me to bring in an AR-10, had a new rifle, and she wanted to see it. And when I walked in the building, she started screaming, white guy with a gun, white guy with a gun, hoping that the MP debt that we had would actually break leather on me. And they didn't do it, so ha. But it was still pretty good. My friends from St. Pat's, hey, thank you for all we've shared. And I know we're going to continue to journey through faith and friendship together. And it's going to mean a lot. And I think the chaplain would agree that Jesus would put cheese on his tacos. So it's hashtag Jesus for Jesus. That was a long conversation we had in truck company, about a month long. 3 events in my career that kind of shaped who I am. Back in 1998, MSSG 26 truck platoon. I was a young sergeant on my 3rd deployment. We were in Bosnia, and the MEU was there. We were trying to end that civil war. These people have been killing each other for years, and the world really didn't care. So I was in the ring mount, manning a 50 cal on an LVS, and this old little babushka woman came up and knocked on the door of the truck. And I grabbed my phrase book to see if she was okay. The only 2 phrases I remembered from that book were Minske Polje, which is minefield, and Stani ili pucam, which is stop or I'll shoot. So neither of those applied here. So when I got out of the truck, this old little woman, she was crying, and she hugged me. She kissed my cheeks, kept saying, "Thank you, America." She saw me. She didn't see a kid from the Midwest. She didn't see some guy out there just, wearing a uniform. She saw America there to help, to protect, to defend helpless people. And that's what Marines always have to do. We always have to do what's right. And that, honestly, that was the first time I ever really felt the weight of this uniform. I felt what this means to be a U.S. Marine. In 2007, I was in Iraq for the 2nd time. It was my 6th deployment overall. And one of my Marines came up to me. His name is Corporal Charles Del Rio. His call sign was Vanessa. And if you understand that reference, get your mind out of the gutter. I see you. But Vanessa came up and he had this sergeant with him. He's like, hey, Staff Sergeant, you've got to hear this guy's story. So this sergeant, he said back in 2005 in Fallujah, he was an engineer. And he was on a team that was building a new ECP out on the outskirts of the city, way out past Lima Black, way out there. And they were swinging some T-walls in. T-walls are these huge, like 15-foot high concrete, looks like an upside down T. And these links all stacked together to make a wall. And he was crushed in between two of them. They weighed about 20 tons each. He had broken collarbone, shoulder, arm, fractured pelvis, internal bleeding, everything. And outskirts of the city, he was about 45 minutes away from the hospital, Fallujah Surgical. So when the corpsmen started screaming for urgent surgical, Kazivacs back then were all on the ground. There was no air flying in and out of Fallujah because it was a city. So you had to get to the hospital to be flown out. And he knew 45 minutes out, if he left right then, he was as good as dead. So the sergeant's telling me, he said, yeah, I started making my peace with God, you know, started thinking of my wife. And all of a sudden, boom, this ambulance shows up. He gets strapped to a litter, thrown in this ambulance, and the ambulance just takes off like a bat out of hell. And he said, yeah, he could tell that the guy was swerving. He was going up on sidewalks. He was hitting curbs, doing everything. But this sergeant knew he was going to die in 2005. And said the ambulance came skidding to a halt. Doors went flying open. And boom, he's at Fallujah Surgical. They got him out. They stabilized him. They stopped the bleeding. They did everything they could. And he recovered 100%. In fact, his wife was pregnant right then. He goes, yeah, everything works a lot better than it was supposed to. But he knew he should have died, and he didn't. So he was pretty happy about that. You know, I shook his hand. I was like, hey, yeah, that's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And he walked off, and Vanessa's standing there. He's like, Staff Sergeant, that was us. We were the guys who got him. I said, yeah, I know that. He doesn't need to, though. We're not here for all the praise and glory. We're here to do our job. All that guy needed to know was that some Marine who he didn't know did right by him and took care of him. And to me, that's what mattered most. Because that's what Marines are supposed to do. And finally, on 7 September 2013, I checked into the 31st MU, CLB 31. This was September. In October, more than half of the platoon had rotated out, and I had a whole bunch of brand new Marines, one of them sitting right over here, bunch of brand new Marines right out of Motor T School. That was October. In November, a massive typhoon hit the Philippines, and we were leaving. So these young, brand new PFCs, instead of the normal 4-month workup cycle, they had to learn about ship life, about embarkation, about humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and about their MOS in 4 days. We missed their first Marine Corps ball. We missed their first Marine Corps Thanksgiving, but by the time we finished and made it back to Okinawa, I knew I had some of the best damn Marines that a staff NCO could ever hope to serve with. So over the course of 5 MU deployments, that put me at 12 total. In those 2 years, I got to watch those Marines grow from lost little PFCs into hard charging sergeants. One of them is even a meritorious staff sergeant right now. You know, I shared so much sweat and rain and coffee and mud with them, whether it was sleepless frozen nights in South Korea, steak sandwiches in Australia, or watching them execute alone and unafraid during their own HADR mission in Saipan. I knew that the Corps was going to be in good hands long after I'm gone because of Marines like that. So in closing, I just want to say my parents aren't here, my girl's not here, my boys aren't here, but I'm surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones. I mean that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, no matter how dry, crusty, and old it is. Thank you. And before I go, truck company, since I'm not going to get another safety brief with you guys ever, if you would, if you drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink. If you have sex, use protection. If you get in trouble, and bad news and ex-wives, don't give it every time. Rah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to honor those who have served with the 1st Marine Division, the division song Waltzing Matilda will now be played. The song originates from Australia, where the division maintained the training base for World War II in preparation of the island campaigns. Over the decades, 1st Marine Division and sailors have marched off to this historic tune. We ask those who have served in our division from World War II to those currently serving in the Blue Diamond to please stand to be recognized. We respectfully request for others to remain seated in silence to honor those who are absent and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, and those who are present who served with the 1st Marine Division. Ladies and gentlemen, after the playing of the 1st Marine Division song, Waltzing Matilda, please rise for the playing of Anchors Aweigh in the Marines Hymn. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Thank you.